So, welcome everybody. My name's Matt France. I'm the Deputy Director of Organisational Development here at Morecambe Bay Trust. And this is the first of a series of 3 conversations with Dr. Matt Tautz. Am I pronouncing that right, Matt?
Yes, almost.
Almost.
Yeah.
Well, we'll keep it easy. We're both called Matt. So we're going to talk to Matt about a few things. Today's topic, though, is naturally boosting your immune system.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's one of those interesting topics to get people fired up about nutrition and the way that they can support their immune system during these difficult times. But before we get into the topic in some detail, maybe you can tell us a bit about yourself, Matt, what your background is, what you're doing here at the Trust, and how come you're a special interest in this topic?
Yes, of course. I've been working in this trust since 2006 as a consultant. I was employed as a consultant anaesthetist with a special interest or a subspecialty of chronic pain management. And all went well in about 2010. And then I had a major road traffic collision with my motorbike. Basically someone plowed into me from the side, and I had very serious injuries, some of which I have unfortunately still got, which is a non-really usable right hand, and lots of long bone injuries at the time. I was in intensive care for 2 weeks, ventilated, and then another 2 months in the hospital. And it took me about 2 years to actually start walking again. So, wow. But ever since then, I have completely changed tack. Now I'm just doing pain clinics. And because I can't really do interventions like we do with needle-based techniques, which I used to do in the first place, I have kind of changed tack a little bit into more the holistic treatment of patients, and particularly psychology for people with pain. And looking into more an approach as to how we can actually perhaps prevent people from becoming sick and become chronically ill, which I think we are really good at treating people with acute medical problems, but we're not doing quite so well preventing chronic disease.
So hence your kind of interest in all of these type of topics. And when you use the term holistic, people might think of, incense sticks and crystals and stuff, but you've got a different.
I'm very much still a kind of school medicine type of guy.
Yeah.
And I do like to be on firm, solid ground of evidence base. But apart from that, I'm obviously also open and knowledgeable that other things can be quite important that are basically always a little bit pushed aside because they're not quite as sexy or interesting as other stuff. And certainly very little money is spent on prevention, I think, rather than we're paying a lot of money in sorting problems out once they have occurred. And I think we could save an awful lot of money helping people in the first place of not becoming chronically ill.
And so hence your interest in this topic of naturally boosting your immune system. When we talked earlier, and you mentioned that you're having to be working from home at the moment. So you started looking at this stuff, talking to other doctors around the globe, and which groups have you been in touch with?
There's a story to it, basically, because when this all started, of course, I made a kind of self-inventory. And I have got, amongst other things, high blood pressure, and I was on an ACE inhibitor called lisinopril. And now there have been studies here and for and against, but it appears to be petering out that probably being on an ACE inhibitor is not the best thing in the current COVID-19 crisis, because the virus evidently gets into your lung via these receptors. So I thought, what can I do to actually help myself, perhaps not having to take lisinopril? So I tried alternatives first, and I was desperately ill on those with side effects. And then I thought, well, perhaps I don't actually need to take this, and look a little bit more into how I can control my blood pressure, and also how I can become fitter and healthier with other things. And I'm a curator of a group where we exchange opinion with regards to pain doctors, but during the current crisis, everything is fair game. So we're talking about nutrition, we're talking about supplements, and I've been busy with a German website over the weekend that just discusses nutrition, for instance. So basically what I did a couple of weeks ago, I put myself on the scale and I was embarrassed as to how fat I was. And I thought that has to change. If I lose weight, there's a good chance that my blood pressure will follow. And if I get a bit fitter in general, that might be better. And I was looking and researching into how I can replace some of the medication we use by natural supplements.
Fantastic. And that's kind of the topic of our conversation today, is this stuff around boosting one's own personal immune system. Yes. And that's one of the first things I'd like to start talking around, really. I know we're going to come back to this kind of, there is a magic bullet that we'll save for later. There's something that definitely works for every single person, and this is kind of unrefutable. It's kind of all the scientific evidence points towards, but we'll save that till later. But first of all, maybe just tell us some of the stuff that you've learned recently about keeping your immune system as high as it possibly can be through nutrition, through supplementation, and some of those things. What are the things that people can do? What can people be eating? And what can they be taking that will boost their immune system?
Yes, well, from nutrition, there isn't really, there are no great surprises here, that's for sure. As we all know, we as a society, we eat way too much meat and way too much red meat. That still has a place, of course, but that can be and ought to be replaced with a more diverse diet, let's put it that way, that includes more vegetable, more fruit, and particularly important, more fiber. Fiber is one of these things that is extremely important to keep healthy. It can lower your your body weight, but it has also got very important effects on your cardiovascular system. It can lower the blood pressure, gives you better cardiac performance, and but most importantly, it actually works really well on the gut. It seals a leaky gut, and we are basically a biome of billions of life forms, and we are just one of them. The most one we've got in our gut, and by actually consuming fiber, we improve that a great deal. So there are many foods that we can use just there to help increasing the fiber content, and that actually is really simply done.
Brilliant. I've got a list here. You've sent me this before. I can share that on the screen for folk. If I bring that up now, I can find this.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's the wrong one. My apologies. It should be here. Can you see this one? No, well, I can't find that at the moment. I'm going to take that one back.
We can just give a couple of examples there that might be interesting, and then actually append the list of
let's do that.
That we use.
There it is. There it is now. I found it.
Okay, okay.
Can you see that there?
Oh, that's the immune boost regime. Okay, yes.
There we go. There's our fiber containing
right,
foods.
yes. So what I'm saying there is basically one of the important ones. The fruit you can use: pears, strawberries have got high content. Avocado is a very important food to eat, which is actually also a fruit, although it doesn't really taste like one would expect from a fruit. But it is a special thing about it that it is really high in fats, and when I talk about fats, it's good fats, you know, like the unsaturated ones. But it also got vitamin C, magnesium, potassium, and vitamin E, and all the B vitamins. Apples and pears go together. Berries, any berry really, also the superfood, which is blueberry, can be used and has got a high fiber content.
Matt, would you recommend any of these, or is it okay to eat them non-organic? Because I know some people are very strict about that. Is that a great? How important is that for you?
It is, if you can get organic, of course. Usually the nutrient density is better, and in organic food you will find less of pesticides. But I'd rather you eat wherever you can source it from, of these foods, than to say, well, I can't get any organic, or it's too expensive, so I might leave.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So yes, a beetroot, fantastic. It's got iron, it's got nitrates. That's actually part of my regime to lower my own blood pressure. Broccoli is one of these absolute superfoods. It's got high protein content, and lots of fiber and lots of other goodness in it. Even artichoke, which I personally like, but it doesn't really usually get much of press, is working. And then things like legumes, which are lentils, split peas, baked beans, all those are really, really good, and they're also very cheap and very nutritious foods. With those ones, particularly like lentils, you actually want to make sure that you probably water them for a day or two, or marinate them, because you want to get rid of the saponins that are in there that are not so good. And that's exactly how our grandmothers used to cook. And people
soaking the lentils beforehand, 24 hours before, and then cooking them later. Yeah.
The white stuff on top is not so good, that you see in the water.
Great. Yeah. So we've talked there about fiber.
Yes.
In terms of and I noticed
one is cereals, of course, and my particular favorite there is oat bran. I'll put that into everything, even on top of the cereal. I put a spoonful of that. You know. So. Yeah.
So that's fantastic. So people are upping their fiber intake. What about the vitamin content of a lot of those things? I know you talked about the vitamins there. If you're not getting enough vitamins, let's talk about supplementation. I know that you take a few things.
Yes. To say, I've put a list down there as well that we can append with all the foods that have got really high vitamin C content. Vitamin C is one of these that we can no longer make by ourselves. Interestingly, we still got a gene, but it's switched off permanently. And other animals, so like my dogs or cats, they can make vitamin C. So that for them it's not essential. They can just produce it. We can't. So we need to supplement it. And for this immune boost regime, I would recommend 1 to 3 grams. The real thing is just to get used to it. If you start too high, you might get a little bit of problems with the bowel, a bit of loose stools or something like that. But I would say a normal Berocca tablet, or whatever the other makes are, have got most of the vitamins in there, including vitamin C. And if you then supplement it by, let's say, eating a bell pepper or orange, berries, all these things.
So if you're getting plenty of fruit and a vitamin tablet, then the vitamin C, you're going to get that. Yeah.
And there will be the B vitamins in there to a degree, a little bit of zinc as well, but not enough. The most important one, really, that's why I put it at number 1, which I found out via various study, is vitamin D. The reason being that in March, we are at an all-time low, usually, for all people in vitamin D. And it's been shown that it is vital for a good immune system. The reason is basically we don't get enough sunlight during the winter months, and therefore our levels drop. And vitamin D is not really found in food that much. You have to be really finicky and you just don't get enough. So I would suggest actually boosting your vitamin D levels by 1,000 units per 10 kilogram body weight a day.
That sounds like a lot.
It is an awful lot, but that is what I have found out with these various studies. So what I'm doing at the moment, actually, I'm taking the 20,000 unit, and I take it about twice a week. And once I've got my blood levels checked, I will know where I am. Plus, obviously, now in the garden a lot, there's a lot of sunshine, but it's not entirely sure as to how much vitamin D you actually make in the sun. It is certainly more.
Mathias, I've got a question on that. How do you? So you said get your blood levels checked. How? I mean, you're a doctor. You may be. I don't know if you do that yourself. Or how does someone like me get my blood levels checked for that?
You could go to your GP and ask directly, I would think. There are also tests that can be sent through the post where you can actually make a check of vitamin D and other levels. It might be worth the while. From what I've heard, the risk of a higher dose is not particularly great. Yes, if you've got a history of kidney stones, which I have got, then you might want to be a little bit more careful with the higher dosage. But for a normal person, it's difficult to overdose with it. By the way, the vitamin D is not actually a vitamin as such as a hormone. It's got a steroid structure, and it's also one of those that helps particularly not just with the immune system and of course with the bone, as we all know, but with with the gut. With the endothelial cells, the leaky gut, it closes them quite well. So really super important for the immune system at this time as well.
Fantastic. So vitamin C, vitamin D.
Vitamin D, then the omega-3 that we all know which is the fish oil. Although you can actually get, if you're vegan or vegetarian, you can get the same omega-3 oils from algae. Which you can also buy. I think they're a bit more expensive, but if you say I don't want to eat fish, and some people don't like the kind of, there can be a little bit of an aftertaste of fish when you have the capsules.
Yeah.
Although I think that peters out, I can't taste it anymore.
So but people could get that vegetarian supplement in a health food store or something like that.
That's right. Yeah. Our problem is that we are having omega-6. And particularly a study in teenagers found that the actual ratio from omega-3 to omega-6 was terrible in young people. Something like at 20 or 15 when it should be around 2. So you know what we're up against.
So it's the 3 is good. We want the 3.
We want 2 really, that ratio, you know.
It's omega-3s. Yeah.
No, of course, omega-3 is the one you want. Yes, that is the one with a lot of the double binds in that mops up free radicals, for instance.
And in terms of eating fish, is eating fish enough to help with the omega-3s and the right omega oils?
Yes, if you have 2 or 3 portions of oily fish a week, that will probably be just about okay. But you have to be ever so careful with what type of fish you eat. That's another slide I've made, because there are certain fish you'd rather want to avoid because they're quite high in heavy metals and in PCBs. So I would recommend one of the best fish to eat is mackerel, but not the king mackerel. The king mackerel is full of the heavy metals again.
Okay.
So yeah, as are other big lionfish, like the tuna, avoid. Shark anyway. The shark that should be shot if you're eating shark. Really, it's just not done. They're totally overfished and about to be extinct. So things like rainbow trout is a good one. Cod is a good one. And I've left a list there what to eat and
yeah, we'll share that list after we'll make sure that people get access to the list. It's got a good list of fish on there that you can get into.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
Next up list would be the zinc, which
I've been taking zinc magnesium. It's called ZMA actually. It's zinc, magnesium, vitamin A.
That's fine. I use one that is selenium and zinc combination. Selenium actually, I remember from my days in intensive care, was always given to the real ill people. I don't know whether it's still kind of the thing of the day, but at the time it very much was. Wow. So zinc is vital in immune response, cellular immune response, and again, you should be what you get with your normal Berocca tablet is just not enough. Basically, there's a bit in it, but it's not enough, and you can't have like 10 of them. That's no good either. So you want about 5 to 10 milligrams, and if you actually feel you might be coming down with something, standard cold or so, then doubling that is recommended for a little while.
Perfect. Hey, and is selenium the same thing that you find in Brazil nuts?
Yes, I think so. It's in Brazil nuts. Yeah. I mean, nuts, by the way, are a perfect food source. Great. Everything nut except for peanut, which is not a nut.
so an avocado is not whatever it is, but it's a fruit.
It's a legume again.
Yeah.
So
okay.
A pulse type thing. So but all type of nuts are really good to graze on as well. Lots of oils there, polyunsaturated and other things. So it's actually really good, although they do have a fairly high calorie content, but it's good stuff,
So let me see if I can bring up that list of all of these supplements we've talked about. 1 second.
Yes.
Get that there.
We've got
there's our immune boosting list.
Yes. So that is the list, and the last two ones. I mean, there's actually only one. The last one is a personal one for me, which I just always add because I think the curcumin is really good. It's also anti-inflammatory, and this is also mood stabilizer. Apart from that, I would say the lactoferrin, which is actually a cow's colostrum, is what the calves get, the first milk. And of course, in the first milk, there is immune competent substances in it, and so that is really also highly recommended. By the way, when we talk about nutrition again, we want to actually avoid a lot of the dairy stuff. There's a lot of intolerance, and really, when you look at it, milk is something that's very good for the young animals, but not so much for adults. When you look there, there's no animal that drinks milk when it's an adult. And okay. We are struggling a little bit with having too much dairy in our diet. And of course, the biggest one that I haven't actually spoken about, but when we start, we'll never end, is sugar. The refined sugar. You should avoid that at all costs.
Okay. Is that something also I think we can briefly mention is alcohol? Is that another one to avoid or to enjoy?
Well, enjoy in moderation, that's what I would say. You know, when we're talking about the Mediterranean diet, the olive oil is a very good oil, and part of it is the red wine.
Okay.
But the thing is,
great, that's good.
The thing is, it doesn't mean you have to finish the whole bottle. So if you have the glass in the evening, and then perhaps have two days in a week where you don't drink at all. I mean, I'm teetotal, so for me it's not a major problem. But I would limit that to, you know, perhaps five out of 7 days. But then really only that glass and not the whole bottle. That's what I think.
Well, I can recommend keeping the red wine in the fridge between, so that makes it, you can string it out across the week that way.
Yes.
And you can do it as long as you warm it back up afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, great. So let's talk about let's briefly talk about sleep, because I know that's something that's really important in terms of getting the right rest. It'll be difficult for people working long shifts, especially doctor colleagues and nurses that are on shift for 12 hours at a time. But
Yeah.
how important is sleep in this whole immune system?
Well, at this moment, as always, sleep is vital for all of us. Otherwise, you cannot recuperate. One of my first things that I did in medicine when I was still a student in Freiburg in Germany, I was doing sleep research, and I did the polysomnograms with patients where they had, you know, these. I had to stick them all onto their head, and then I had to go through the written books during the course of the night to stage.
This was pre-digital.
That was pre-digital, exactly.
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
you can get it in a tiny box like this. But at that time, it was really hard work. And of course, there's a lot of problems with sleep, but a lot of it can be totally avoided. My top tips there, first important one is get enough daylight. We make a hormone that's called melatonin as a pineal gland that sits somewhere right underneath here, and actually it responds to light.
Okay.
Even through the bone. So you want daylight, and or if you can't get daylight, you want bright light during the course of the day. That's why in some of the Scandinavian countries in winter they've got these sad lamps that with the high intensity light. It helps not just for the mood, it helps also for sleep.
So it produces melatonin, and I think the other benefit you talked about before is vitamin D production as well.
Yes, and it helps you stay awake during the day, you know, and it tells you that melatonin tells you when you want to sleep, and that's what we need to do more anyway. We need to listen more to our bodies, what we actually want, what they want from us. It's the same with the eating. When you're hungry, do eat. You know, it's don't just set times for it. One problem here that comes a bit later is don't eat too late in the evening. If you've got a real full stomach, you're not going to sleep very well.
Yeah.
So the same goes for then conversely to the daylight. When you go to sleep, which should be at a set time, unless you're a shift worker, and that is a totally separate problem, of course. Go to sleep during the kind of similar hours so that your body gets used to it. And then the room wants to be dark. Yeah, so your bedroom should be dark, it should be calm and quiet, and it should be reasonably silent. So if there's a clock that really winds you up, get it out of the room. If there's light sources in the room, get rid of them. Particularly bad is the blue light that you get from LEDs. Keeps you up all night. Get rid of your iPhone, get rid of your iPad, banish it to another room, and make sure that the bedroom is really only for sleeping.
Yeah.
So a TV in the bedroom is never a real good idea. So and reading do before you go to bed in another room, and then you go to bed, and that's where you go to sleep.
So we get our going to bed routine sorted. We go to bed at the same time, get those electronic devices out of the bedroom. And how about in terms of the length of sleep? What's the minimum that people should be trying to get away with?
That's totally individual. I mean, there were reports that some people like Napoleon only needed 4 hours. But what you want to have a refreshing sleep. That's the sleep when you wake up and you feel refreshed in the morning. And it has to be a mixture between REM sleep, which is the rapid eye movement sleep where we tend to dream, and the deep sleep phases. And you have to go through them a couple of times. But once you've gone through them once, it's actually for some people already enough. So it can't really be prescribed how much, but I would say on average you should aim for at least 6 hours.
Yeah, I think that's some of the 6 hours is kind of a general norm, isn't it? But 8 hours being desirable,
Yeah.
especially for people who are doing a lot of physical work. And one thing to remember is that Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan slept 4 hours a night for two terms of their presidency and prime minister. Both of them died of Alzheimer's.
Yeah, and see how what happened to that's what I wanted to say.
So let's not they're not shining lights, and we know what happened to Napoleon too.
This whole idea, by the way, if I can just digress for one moment, because a lot of this was research that was done with indigenous populations, in rainforest or the Inuit and things like, or in Africa, some tribes. These people do not die of disease, chronic disease. They die of infection or is neonatal mortality. And the reason is their lifestyle. Clearly. So better food, more exercise, which we come to in a moment, and avoidance of these processed foods, of course. Sugar is a terrible disease, really, for our society. And these people, because it's so addictive, if those tribes go and they find honey, that's it. Day is over. They will consume that honey, yes, but we have it on tap, the sugar. So it used to be a reward, and now we eat it all the time, and that's the problem.
Okay.
But let's go back to the sleep. I just wanted to say about that. So keep the temperature below 20 degrees as well. Avoid caffeine after 4. So no more coffee after 4 or mega doses of tea. Then try consistent times. Alcohol, unfortunately, it helps getting off to sleep for a lot of people, but they wake up and they don't get a refreshing sleep, and it causes problems such as snoring, sleep apnea, and is to be avoided, really. And certainly in larger quantities.
Do you recommend? Have you recommended CBD oil? I know that sometimes that's used in pain management and for sleep. Is that something that is quite a craze at the moment?
I don't know. If it works for you, it's fine. It seems to be non-addictive. I have to say I'm not bowled over at all with regards to pain management. I have not had many real good results from it. They're now advertising again a mixture of CBD and with some THC content, but I'll be really careful about it.
Yeah.
This is not going to be the stuff that makes you sleep better. If you stick to this regime, you will see a difference without any CBD oil. Or, I mean, of course, you could take melatonin tablets.
I heard something about the melatonin tablets is that if you become dependent, it reduces your own body's ability to produce the melatonin. Is that a myth? Or
I would always try to stay away from it. If at all possible, when we can make it naturally, as we know we can, by having long times in the sun during the daytime, and we're making it, then it's fine.
So let's summarize on that point then. So we've got sleep, we've got getting plenty of sunshine, seeing plenty of daylight, but then when it's time to go to bed, get the blue light out of the room, get the lights down. Make sure you've got a well-darkened room in a quiet space, And make that room for sleeping, and make your regular bedtime.
Avoid drinking lots of fluid before, of course, because
so you don't have to get up in the night.
You need to get up. You might struggle to go back to sleep, and of course, you know, last point, but not totally unimportant. Of course, check your mattress every 7 years. You should have a new one, and make sure when you've got the pillow. That is now from a pain doctor with regards to neck problems. Have a fairly firm pillow that only goes under your head, not under your shoulders. And that stays there. You know, what you don't want is to sleep on your arm like that, because eventually you will get into trouble with neck problems. Okay, perfect. So let's go on to that last subject then. You've kind of let the cat out of the bag a little bit, but it's it's around exercise. That is our magic ingredient, isn't it? That's the kind of magic ingredient for most things, really. It particularly for boosting your immune regime. What has been studied really and found out that you should have daily exercise. And I have to say, I wasn't very good at it at all. Since my accident and with the disability, I was happy to be able to walk again, but I never really did much in terms of exercise. And again, some 4 weeks when I started all this in more earnest, I found out how incredibly unfit I was. But I also found out that it doesn't take an awful long time to actually turn this around. So tell us about your experience of that, because that sounds like you were in a period of inactivity for quite some time. You talked about, you know, you've taken some steps to tackle your weight and so on. And so how long did it take you? I know we've got some great examples around the Trust of people doing some incredible transformations. How about yourself? How long did it take you to get into the rhythm of doing some exercise? Well, as I say, I've only started about 4 weeks ago, but I do every day now. I do a walk because I can't run. Okay, certain things I just can't do, and you'll have to accept that. But there isn't really an excuse for anyone not to exercise. There are ways around it. In my case, I use the Nordic walking poles, the Nordic walking sticks. Yeah. Because when I was young, I did a lot of cross-country skiing, and it's very similar. And it's a similar workout. So you do something for your legs, but also for the upper body. And I enjoy that quite a bit. And that's what we call an extensive workout. That means it is not highly aerobic, but it's something, you know, for 60 minutes, it's a very good exercise. So that kind of thing you need to do for a longer period of time. So the whole instruction at the moment of getting your state-mandated exercise per day has been a good thing for a lot of people. Yes, exactly. And now that we've got the time on our hands, you know, we should do that. And if you don't have the 60 minutes, the other thing that's really highly recommended is the intensive workout, which is basically what they call a HIIT training, the high-intensity interval training. Which can be 15 to 20 minutes, but you really push yourself. And it has shown that it has very good benefit for the whole immune system, and it actually, in particular, to creating and making fit the killer cells, natural killer cells. They actually rise and keep rising even hours after you've stopped with that exercise. Is that is that from? I'm trying to remember my O-level biology. Is that leukocytes? They are, yes, to a degree, and they're called natural killer sites, which is from the B lymphocyte type, you know. But I could do a bit on the immunology, but I thought it was a little bit, you know, too in depth. Too much in depth for it. All I can say really is the extensive, i.e. the walking, is really good if you can do it. But if you really want to get fit really quick, then this intensive workout for just 15 to 20 minutes can really work. Also for things like weight gain, they had a program couple of years ago, I think with Michael Mosley about it on BBC. And I found out that these people who were torturing themselves for 2 hours in the gym, and then they sent these people to do this HIIT training, and they actually did better in less time.
So
now
just 15 to 20 minutes of high intensity stuff. So what about those people who are kind of out of shape, they haven't done exercise for a while? Maybe is there a gradual way into that, or do you just?
That's not something that someone who's really unfit at that time. I mean, say I tried it to start with, and I could do 5 minutes, and I was next to her, and I thought, oh my God. But then I did the walking for a couple of days, and I felt myself getting better aerobically. And now I can do 10 minutes of this other training, and I'm sure in another couple of weeks I'll be all right to do the full program there of 15 to 20 minutes.
Fantastic. Where can people learn more about that high intensity interval training?
There's actually apps available. There's also free apps available. Lots of literature, stuff on YouTube. And there's even now, if you've got Netflix or Amazon Prime or something like that, there is even free courses there. You don't even have to pay. You can watch the workout on your TV, and then obviously do it yourself, not just watch it. So,
and I know that actually the Trust has set up and run a few sessions of Nordic walking before.
Okay, yeah.
And we've done that in the past. I think we've done that in Kendal, Lancaster, and maybe across the Ferris as well. And the other thing to look out for on the Trust website and the health and wellbeing slot is the Couch to 5K. I know Helen Pye has been doing a lot of that, getting that going, and we've got a lot of colleagues that have taken that up. I still can't run 5K, but I'm up to 3K.
The walk that they run in the park in Lancaster, and yeah.
So let's make a summary then, Matt. We've been talking for a while. Hope people are still with us. We'll make the slides available so that people can see the information that you've pulled together. All of it's backed up by science, and you've been talking to some amazing people and doing your research. So I'm going to summarize. Let's just summarize by, as you said, it's kind of the really healthy eating, making sure we're getting our nutrients from ideally a natural source, but we can supplement as well. Then we talked about some of the oils that you can use, eating plenty of fish and those kind of things, and plenty of fiber. All of those will boost the immune system. And then we've also got sleep, fundamental part of our sleep, of our immune boosting regime. And then finally, the other one that I'm so glad to hear is exercise. Yeah. So either the extensive exercise or a combination of extensive or intensive exercise.
Really, the key to everything of this is the exercise, even for the sleep, and also for the mood, and even for anxiety. Really important. We talk about that another time, but that is one of the things that you can already state now. Exercise is really good for these type of problems like anxiety and the poor sleep.
And sunshine seems we've been really blessed with the sunshine at the moment, so let's hope that continues for a few more weeks.
Yes,
fantastic, Matt. It's been great talking to you, and I look forward to the next one, which I think is going to be about anxiety and fear and dealing with those things. Yes, really great, really fantastic to get the information directly from someone who's kind of researched this stuff. It sounds like common sense, but there's some of that vitamin stuff, and the information is really vital. And let's hope people can get their immune systems high and keep looking after those patients and keep doing what they need to do.
Right. Okay.
So look after yourselves. Yeah. And we'll speak soon.
Thank you.
Okay.
Pleasure.